And we're back. It's almost like we never left. Here we are.
Yeah, it is like that, except for the week that happened
I
between.
love the specs on this guy.
No, this is cool.
I've read the specs for this guy.
Representative
Original factory specs.
John Burt had to come over to me in the house this morning and say, did I look like one of the Blues Brothers?
Do you? Can you dance like one of the Blues Brothers?
I can.
I'll be the Dan Aykroyd guy. And you,
All right, we can do that. But not tonight.
Who's Whoopi
we
Goldberg?
ought to do a video up on top of this table. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm Eric Eastman. Some think I'm honorable. I'm still working on divesting myself of that prefix, but that's another story. To my right is the Honorable Gary Hopper, who has spent the day, my friends, in Concord serving you and your interests all day long.
Or napping in my chair, depends on how you look at it.
Napping in his chair on your behalf.
Yes.
That's right. And we have some fascinating, brilliant, and scintillating guests here today. Now that I'm out of superlatives, I'll let you do the introductions.
Penny Dean is an attorney that I've known for I don't know how many years, actually. Probably 15 or 18, or a long time anyway. And she's been fighting for the Second Amendment and stuff like that forever. I remember going to the legislature. One of the coolest things about being a legislator is every year Go New Hampshire would have a legislative shoot, which you would think you would have the opportunity to shoot legislators, but no. It was when the legislators had the opportunity to shoot different guns. And it was one of the, because you're only getting $100 a year, it was one of the few times where you got to shoot everybody else's ammo and eat their food. It was awesome. And I remember you with your pink guns at one of those. And all kinds of stuff. You're always active. You're always doing great things. And also, sitting to her right is...
I'll do my own intro.
Oh, yeah, that's
Hi.
probably a good idea.
My name is Damon, and I'm a high school student. Back to you.
Excellent job. And he's my grandson, but we won't divulge that.
Do
We'll hold
not
that
tell
against
them.
him.
Don't tell them.
Don't tell him. We're not telling them. Okay, anyway, Eric.
Hi.
You have the floor. Floor
Oh,
away.
thanks. So I've been doing a little bit of lately bragging on some of the work I do outside of the studio and outside of the legislature. I'm involved in the arts and media production and the theater and all that kind of thing. And you might have had enough of that already so far, but I'm just going to do a little bit more victory lapping, and I'll tell you why. Because
You like lapping?
we'll get back to that.
Yeah, okay.
Like I said, that's the fun of the segment. What has happened in the week that's unfolded since we last saw you here, of course, we've been here at this desk the whole time, you just don't know it,
Yeah.
is that the good folks over at the Boston International Film Festival, where my most recent feature film premiered, took us 4 years to put it together and get it out the door, have seen fit to give me and the lead actress an award. It's basically the silver medal for Best Director and Best Actress. And it's really quite a big honor because it's an international film festival. If Paul wants to punch in on that, you feel free to do that. It's just the little tag that let me in through the door. But that's their logo. And just wanted to show you a couple of the neat spiffy awards.
Spiffy?
Zooming.
There you
He's
go.
zooming away.
You know,
Zoom.
everybody likes something that's mounted. It looks like a plaque or looks like a degree, so that's what this is. It just says that it's an award for excellence in filmmaking, essentially. And it's a big honor because I'm a rookie director. This was my first, and producer, too. I've been an actor in that medium for a long time, but in those capacities, I was brand new. And it's kind of cool to get some recognition. You've seen this poster before last week. It was much bigger then. The film's called Spin the Plate. Look it up online, and I'd be honored if you would. It's about a woman overcoming the scars of childhood abuse. So it's a deep, dark subject, but we treat it with a lot of respect and a lot of levity, too, which is odd, but it works.
It's called Gallows Humor.
Gallows humor. You got it right.
Gallows Humor kills me, I'll tell you that.
And then the last nifty thing that
Wait,
goes with
no,
it,
you
of
missed
course.
that. I just said a wicked good joke.
Yeah?
I said
Play it on
Gallows
me.
Humor
Yeah.
kills me.
You need explanation, right? So
Apparently I
he
do.
loves the story. Of
So, okay,
oh.
my victory lap is almost done. This goes with it. It looks like a mini Oscar. I'm all proud.
Let me see.
I knew you would want to see this. And everybody wants to hold the Oscar. Here you go.
Wow, that is wicked cool.
Yeah. So it's not a real Oscar. It's from a different thing. It's from the Boston International Film Festival. But I'm all proud, and I'm more proud of my team, my executive producer and the writer of the novel, Tom and Donna Anastasi, and my lead actress here. This is Becky Dennis, and she and her husband are out in L.A. now. They're from Andover, Mass, and really making a go of it in the industry. So I guess other than preening here in front of the camera, I just wanted to reassert the fact that if you got dreams and you got big ideas, don't let your doubts stop you. I did for a while, and then I got on the horse and I rode it hard, and look what we got. We got a lot of people saying yay about a film that's going to hopefully change lives. So follow your dreams and make things happen.
Follow your dreams
It
and
works.
actually help people at the same time. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal.
Doesn't get any better than that.
It's a big deal, and they give you little statues. So,
Little statues.
anyway, all right, the preening is done. Let us commence.
Nice preenage.
Yes. Thanks a lot. I'm excited about our guest today, actually. We had a chat before.
Have you met her before today?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay,
Much
okay.
to my chagrin, because it sounds like we've got a lot in common.
Yes.
We just talked about motorcycles a minute ago.
Oh, yes. Anything? What did you say? What snobbish thing did you say?
1,000 cc's and above. It's practical, because if you're on the highway and someone's going to crunch you, you can accelerate and get
Get
away
out
from
of the
the
way, yeah.
four-wheelers who are trying to run over the
That
little
is actually
two-wheeler.
true, because I
Yeah.
started out when he was little. Damon was, I don't know, 2. I bought my first bike. It was a 650 because it was my first motorcycle. I wanted something it wasn't going to get away from me, and I really loved it because of the size, and for back roads it was wicked fun. But when you're out in the highway with big vehicles around and they're starting to close in on you, you had
You need some
nothing.
power.
You need some acceleration to get the heck out of there. So I actually agree with you. But
It's
anyway.
actually a safety feature, being able to exit a situation.
Correct.
On a bike.
Yeah, because you
It
don't have
is.
any defense other than getting the hell out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And one of the things I love about Beamers, which was my last bike, is that they do everything understated. So I had a 100, which meant it was a 1,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Nice.
it's really cool. They do everything understated, and it's just
They're
goes.
pretty quick, too.
Yeah, I had a K bike. I love, there's the K versus, the Airhead bike thing, and I'm a diehard K bike girl.
Okay.
The R's have these big, ugly things that are not balanced, and the K's are sleek and cool. So I was a
I
diehard.
got to look into that next. I'm thinking
Susan-
of graduating to something.
Susan Delamus had a Beamer, too. I don't know what kind, though.
Mine was a true German. It had been imported from Germany. So I went to the Department of Motor Vehicles to register it, and in Germany they only have 15 numbers in their serial number and their VIN number.
Right.
So I go in there and they say, you're missing some numbers, and I tell them the whole story. No, it's literally important. She goes, all BMWs are from Germany. I said, I understand that, but this one was literally made for the German road. There's only 15 numbers in the VIN. I can't give you 2 more numbers. And so it took me half a day to register it because I had to go through this again and again and again because they wouldn't believe me until they did a little research and said, oh, it really only has 15 numbers.
Yeah.
Their software couldn't handle the truth.
Yeah, because
yeah.
they needed X number of numbers. And I'm like, we can't be making up numbers here. I said, it's imprinted. It's the way it is.
Cool.
Yeah,
Beamer. Now she's got me thinking.
Yeah.
yeah.
How are those for maintenance, though?
You want me to tell you what? Amazingly, they just don't require maintenance.
Really?
I was a diehard Honda girl, okay? But here's the whole thing. When BMWs do require maintenance, you know what BMW stands for? Bring my wallet. Because I'll tell you what, when they do, for each thing that they require maintenance, get your wallet out. I mean,
Bad, huh?
Yikes.
Ho. And I was spoiled. I grew up on a Honda CB900, and those bikes just don't require maintenance.
They just keep going.
They're
They
beautiful.
just-
I had
yeah.
one of those ones.
Did you? And I had a Vetter lower and upper.
454 LTD and
Yeah.
the CB900. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of why I stuck with Yamaha. I was thinking of going to getting an Indian and all this other stuff, which were a lot more money. But my Yamaha, the other one I had, didn't require anything except sneakers.
Oh my God.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Not bad.
So I said, okay, well, why would I switch brands if I know I got something that doesn't ever need work?
Let people scoff at a Japanese brand all they want. They're great products.
Yeah.
They give us great products.
Part of them, some of the bigger Hondas are made in Marysville, Ohio.
Yes,
and
they
last
are.
time I checked, Marysville, Ohio was part of the U.S.
Is it?
Honda
Yeah,
employs
sure.
more Americans in terms of their assembly
Yep.
processes than, drumroll please, Harley.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Most of Harley's components used to be made in Italy and other such places.
Right.
And I used to tell people that. But, I
Anyway.
have 2 important things I want to talk
All
about
right, let's
today,
talk about something
go.
other than motorcycles.
even though I love motor pickles. We have
don't
first,
want a
which is
pickle.
Project Safe Neighborhoods.
Sorry.
This
And we're
affects
back.
people in Manchester, In Manchester, no
Okay, so
less.
what is this? Okay, go ahead.
It's called Project Safe Neighborhoods.
Project Safe What is that?
It's anti-gun, anti-gun, anti-gun. Okay, so first, what happens is Manchester PD says, look, the federal government's going to give us this money. And this is newsflash to everyone. Where does the federal government get its money? The federal government gets its money from our
I
taxes.
thought it was magic. No?
It's not magic. So what happens
You
is
are the tree.
we send
You are the tree.
them to Washington. We send money to Washington, and they, in their great magnanimity, send it back to us. And so I always tell people that the less Washington money we can take, maybe we can all lower our taxes. It's this crazy idea I have.
You are a rebel.
Micro and macroeconomics, I learned them years ago, but it's kind of basic. So the issue first is, why are we doing that? Because when you get money from Washington, it comes with strings, okay? And maybe they're not what I call New Hampshire strings. If we'd leave all our money here, then we can decide how to spend it to begin with and not waste all this money sending it there, bringing it back. But Project Safe Neighborhoods, there's been problems with it because I swear it comes from the CDC, even though I don't think it does, which is the Center for Disease Control, which you all know is the most anti-gun, biased, pseudo research organization ever been.
Right.
So what happens is they seem to have this theory in Project Safe Neighborhoods. I've never had this happen. All my guns just sit in the safe or lay around and don't do anything, but they think they get up and go out and cause trouble.
Mine do.
They get up and go out and
Oh,
cause
yeah,
trouble. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's the problem, is they seem to have this attitude and this belief and this philosophy that firearms are the problem. I thought it was bad behaving people that were the
Oh,
problem.
no,
I did
no.
too.
Yeah.
No, because it's bad guns, really bad guns, and rental trucks.
Was it your guns that egged my house?
Yes. Yes, they do.
See?
Explains a lot.
Well, here's the thing. It's only the black guns that are bad. Pink guns are not bad.
That is true.
I have mine powder-coated pink.
Snap.
Revlon number 19. And so my AR style are pink.
So they're
And
not going to hurt anybody, really.
No, they're
safe.
nice
They're
firearms.
safe.
So
Yeah.
you inspired Steven Tyler to write that song, right?
What song is that?
He has a
Pink.
song called Pink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I did not know it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
pretty
one of the things that Project Safe Neighborhoods wanted to do is they wanted to essentially deputize local and state law enforcement participants by obtaining special deputy jurisdiction with the ATF. Does that sound like a good idea to anybody?
That has to be a good idea, right? It's
Yeah.
the ATF. They love us. Penny, come on.
Help me
Last
with the
ti-
constitutionality of this.
Yeah, a
idea.
little bit. Yeah.
you mean that old document that those old white men wrote?
Yes, the old white men.
It's a couple hundred years old.
That obsolete, oppressive vision for patriarchy. Is that,
Yes, a patriarchy.
You know,
yes.
is that
because
what you mean?
I keep telling
Perpetuates
people,
the patriarchy, actually.
Say
It's
that 5 times
horrible.
fast. I'll bet it's
how
right.
is it that those men, hundreds of years ago, were so wise and so knowing, and they
did a
really-
little reading.
Yeah,
A little bit.
yeah, and they thought about things. We didn't just go forward. We measured twice and we cut once. And so people just boom, boom, boom ahead. They don't like something, they want a solution. They don't think it's like they're sitting on a tree and they want that branch gone, and they don't think the branch they're cutting on, they're sitting on it. And when they finish cutting, that branch and them are going to go skitter into the ground. And so I'm the first person to not like bad people doing bad things. However, you don't need to kill a fly with a giant hammer. And
Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
I use a 10-pound sludge myself.
on your nice
Only 10
furniture
pounds?
in your house, boom,
Not
there's-
nice. I've seen it.
It's
I
not
throw
nice.
chairs
It's
out.
not nice. Yeah.
I mean, after all the sledgehammer, it's basically just cardboard boxes.
Oh my God.
Right, yeah,
so,
it's pretty bad.
So yeah. So the other thing is, they basically initially wanted their people from the lovely Project Safe Neighborhoods money to use it for the firearms line, the New Hampshire gun line, to follow up on criminal things. Well, here's the problem we have. People make mistakes, and a lot of times people are denied firearms, and just
Yes.
because you're denied doesn't mean you're correctly denied. People make mistakes, courts make mistakes.
They get the wrong name.
Well, even then, let's say someone was improperly issued a warrant against them, and even though the court recalled it, they didn't put it in the database that they recalled it. So they think this person's still a fugitive, but they're not still a fugitive.
My former chairman, Bob Rowe, I think it was his nephew who was like 8, was on the no-fly list.
8-year-old, that's a naughty 8-year-old.
Yeah, that's pretty
Jared
bad.
Rowe?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
If I remember the story right, it was a few years ago.
So what I tell people is that we don't want the fancy little trifold selling sheets. Whenever you hear about Project Safe Neighborhoods or things like that, ask them for the nitty gritty. What does it do? What do you have to do? Let's look at like the request for proposal we would in a contract. We don't just look at the nice little slick advertising presentation. We say we want to see the contract.
Yeah, that's the difference between Governor Sununu looking at the pamphlet on Marcy's law, and then the legislature, the House Judiciary and Criminal Justice actually looking at the fine print, saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, cotton picking." It was like it hit a legislative wood chipper.
I'll tell you what, I was there that day, of course, to testify against Marcy's
Yeah, I
law.
saw you. I was wicked sick, so I didn't stick around to talk to you. But
Oh my God! I arrived there, I think around 10 a.m. and I think we left near 6. It
Yeah.
was a long, hard day. I can tell you that and that was just exactly at the devil's in the details. And so I tell people this because people in Manchester want to feel safe. That's normal.
right, so
Okay.
so they hear the safe stations or safe, what is it? Safe places.
Well, this is Project Safe Neighborhood.
Neighborhood.
Okay, so safe neighborhood sounds nice.
It's got an innocuous, reassuring name.
Yes,
Absolutely. But the bottom line is when you start using language and blaming guns and going after things before anybody's even suggested to have committed a crime is just plain wrong. And so what we have to do is we can't let them continue to attack firearm owners and firearms themselves as being demonized.
Right.
Okay? And that's really the thing because a firearm is a tool.
Yeah.
And it's a tool that, I joke, I used to be this young, fit girl. I have a couple injuries now. I have a fake knee. I need a new ankle. I can't run 10 miles at a drop like I used to. I can barely walk some days.
Right.
I need an equalizer. I can't run away
should-
from the
yeah,
bad guys.
You should. I don't think there's an adult that should ever feel as if they can't walk any place they want or do whatever they want, and they shouldn't be afraid of anything.
Yes. You take, like, this young man. Half a dozen of those guys, or even 4 of those guys, I don't stand a chance anymore. They're young, fit men.
Why? Why? Would you know anything I don't about? What have you
No,
been
no,
doing?
no, your grandson's a fine fellow.
know a lot.
You know what, when you...
You heard it here
right.
first, folks.
She's right to be scared of me. Trust me.
No, my point is...
Gary's
that
coming clean about his
nobody,
family today.
Yes,
can fight a pack. I don't care who you are. If you're
Yeah.
Claude Van Damme, you can't fight a pack of 10 men. You might be able to on TV, but they're gonna wear you out.
Right.
And so to that end, we get to, I just want to tell people that whenever, someone says, doesn't this sound good? You have to say, well, I want to see the paperwork before I
Or-
give an opinion.
Or if it sounds too good to be true, guess what?
Yeah, and the question is when they talk about all this money, the question that means my taxes go up because if Washington keeps giving us more money, where are they going to get the money from?
Right.
They're going to come back to us and say we need more money. So going on that, if you will, that trail or that thought, whenever the police department says we're going to do this or do that, we really need to think, is it going to help us? And have we looked at what we're doing now and why it's right or wrong?
Right.
And so the next thing that I want to talk about, which is
So
really...
So this Project Safe Neighborhood.
Yep.
What does it actually do? What is its? What are the details? The devil's in the details that are.
Well, they made a couple committees. You got to have a committee, right?
Oh yeah, you have to have at least
Naturally.
At least 2. And if the committee's deciding on the menu, we'd never eat lunch. So these basically they wanted to go out, and their whole focus was basically, in my opinion, quote unquote, gun crime. What about knife crime? Did anybody read in the past week or two this man on a bicycle in broad daylight came up to a woman and snatched her purse and showed a knife? So if I get robbed, do I care if it's with a gun or a knife? I've been
Right.
robbed.
Right.
And so why are we not focusing on all types of violent crime, knife crime, overpowering crime, all those type
Yep.
of things? Their focus really seems to be firearms, and they want to have a special category of reporting for firearms and all sorts of things. And whenever you hear that, all I can think of is run, Forrest, run.
Right.
And so I just think that we need to become more aware when, especially when they say we can apply for this grant. Okay, how
Oh.
much time did somebody on the payroll spend applying for that grant? Because
Right.
money is money, right? Could have that person spent that time out working the streets, you know,
Making
crime
this,
fighting?
making it a safe neighborhood instead of filing for money to make it a safe neighborhood.
That's exactly right. So that's number one.
Mm-hmm.
But every time it comes up, really you need to look at their agenda and who's putting it forth. You know, and everybody says, "Oh, we can get this money from Washington." And why don't we all step back and say, and they say, "Well, if we don't get it, someone else will." Well, if they cut the budget in Washington, none of us will have to get that money. All of us can pay less taxes.
Right.
And
No,
we-
I agree, 100%. I, since my first term in office, it was astounding, because if you ever have, if you've never been a state legislator, you really, if you have half an interest, you should. One of the things that totally shocked me, because at that time I was still working full-time as a machinist, and it shocked me that I was working, 50 hours a week, paying a boatload of money in taxes, sending it to the federal government, and then the federal government was using it to extort things out of the state. So my tax money was being used for blackmailing my state into doing things it did not want to do and was not in the best interest of the people.
You're making my point in spades. You know, that's an issue that people always need to think about, and people need to be aware, because the bottom line is money doesn't grow on trees, or at least not in my house. There's no money tree in the backyard. You
Yeah.
know, and money is a finite thing. Even though we got those printing presses, ultimately it's a finite thing.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things that we need to think about, and we need to talk about what works and what doesn't work.
And tread softly.
Right. That's exactly, and let's think about this before we go off and, turn the Queen Mary 180 degrees.
Right.
Sometimes just think about it. The other thing, which is that I want to talk about, the second subject tonight, which is really near and dear to my heart, is something that people laugh about, and they really haven't begun to explore it yet, and it's what's called self-defense insurance or self-defense member benefits. And let me tell you how this works. And first of all, I don't own any interest in any of these companies. I don't get paid commission by any of these companies. So in other words, there's a lot of people out there, including lawyers, who sign up for some of these companies, and they get paid a commission on selling you these policies.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to disclose, full disclosure, I don't have any of those dogs in the fight. Because I think whenever someone's selling you and they're going to get a commission, they need to tell you that.
Yeah.
That's honesty.
Yeah.
Because it makes you say, okay, what's their position here? And my position is that 100 years ago, 150 years ago, we didn't have house insurance. It just didn't exist. There wasn't really a thing like that on the market, and the average person didn't purchase it. They just were very careful. They'd rebuild the house if it burned or if something happened
Right,
to it.
yeah. Neighbors would get together and help you rebuild it or whatever. There was a way to overcome it.
That's exactly right. But as a practical matter, now most people purchase house insurance. And as I've said, Bill Gates and Donald Trump and all those people, they got enough money to build another house, okay? But I'm going to bet you a nickel they have homeowners insurance.
Right.
Why? Because they don't want to take that risk.
Yeah.
Same way with automobile insurance. So 20 years ago, there wasn't such a thing as self-defense insurance or member benefits or anything like that. In the past 10 years, there's been 1 million organizations that came out selling it.
Now, what is self-defense insurance? I kind of know what it is by
This
the
is
terminology.
Really
but-
cool. Here's what it does, and there are, just like you can buy 20 different motorcycles with 20 different features,
Right.
there are basically 4 or 5 what I call big players in the game, okay? And then there's a whole pile of others. What it does, and each one of them does it a little differently, let's pretend that you're going home and some person you believe is going to attack you, and you display your firearm and you warn them away. Hopefully they go away. Or let's say worst case happens, you have to discharge your firearm because they won't go away.
Right.
Either way, these policies, the good ones, are going to pay your self-defense insurance. And here's how they work, and this is really important to think about. And I was part of this interview for the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network, and I always screw up their name. for April and May, and we did really a mechanics of how this stuff works from this case that I defended. This person didn't want to come public with it because most people don't know how it works. So let me walk you through how it works with a lot of these different companies, that what I call the good ones. Let's say that happens. You have a number, an 800 number. You call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you say, look, I'm Gary, I'm your member. I just had to display my firearm. Or I just had to, unfortunately, discharge my firearm because these people, were going to hurt me or hurt my grandson or hurt somebody. And what they do in every case is they have lawyers on the ground, boots on the ground in every state. And so they then make the next call for you for a lawyer. Now, you can choose the lawyer of your choosing. If you already have a lawyer, they say, great, you can use your lawyer. We'll pay your lawyer. Or if you don't have a lawyer, they're going to find you one in that jurisdiction. And that is incredibly powerful. And let me tell you why. I never thought about this until I was faced in a situation where a person that I know was traveling, and they were in a state that I really don't have any contacts, and they came upon a problem with transporting their firearms. And they called me and they said, we're beside the road, the police aren't letting us go, we think we're going to get arrested. And I said, oh my gal, I don't know any lawyers in XYZ state, in XYZ area. So I started getting on the email and getting on the phone, trying to find someone to help them. Because you don't just need a criminal lawyer. You need a lawyer who understands self-defense and who understands firearms.
Because you have to, in those cases, you not only have to know whatever the state laws are, you also have to know the federal exemptions from that state law.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes you happen to have a criminal defense lawyer that understands that, but a lot of times they don't. They truly don't.
Right.
And it can make the difference of spending, several nights in the Crossbar Hotel versus going home. And so what these organizations do is, first off, they get you a lawyer right there. So in other words, if they call me, I pick up the phone and I call that person right away.
Right.
I physically go to where they're at. Wherever you're held beside the road, I'm going to be standing there beside you.
Yeah.
Immediately get a photographer if that's what you need, and a private investigator on the scene. And here's the reason. In these type of cases, evidence can very quickly get lost or mislaid, and the police say, well, we're investigating. And unfortunately, there's a quote from a state trooper, a female state trooper. One time I had a client who was arrested in a self-defense case. And it was raining outside horribly, and the man who had attacked my client, who I should mention was like 6'4" and 280.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
with a long record of assaultive behavior. So he probably did it again, and was taking his fist and slamming it on my client's window, the passenger window, slamming it, trying to break it and get in and get him. And where he was arrested, of course, he was arrested for displaying a firearm. They towed his vehicle. The vehicle was in an impound lot. And it was pouring down rain, I should mention that part.
Oh.
So I wanted a technician to come and take fingerprints on that window, or fist prints on that window, to show that my client had been facing imminent legal peril. And I called, and the state police had been a part of this, and I called and I begged. I said, listen, you can stand there, you can watch them, we want to get photographs, we want to get things. And you want me to tell you what a state trooper told me? Your client's right to self-defense is his right to call 911. Think about that.
That's what they've been trained to say.
Well, not only was it offensive, the particular area, it was in the northern part of New Hampshire, and this was years and years and years ago. There was no cell phone service. My client was trying to call 911, but that wasn't one of the options. It just wasn't working. And any one of us knows with technology, you can all of a sudden have a defective battery on the finest new phone. You can be in a dead area.
Yeah.
A million things could happen that you don't have the ability to call 911.
Also, 911 is 3 minutes away, and you've got 20 seconds to stop an assault.
That's exactly right. And that's the other thing. So what happens is, with these different, some are policies, some are actually insurance policies, some are a member benefit.
Right.
So they're regulated differently. The good ones, and let me tell you all the differences, they pay for your insurance, they pay for your bail, they pay for your defense, and even if you're found guilty, you don't have to pay them back in most instances. So that's pretty special. But when you think about how much it cost to defend.
So if I was dealing drugs
No,
and I had a gun,
no.
I would want to buy this insurance.
Nope, it doesn't. Here's the whole thing.
Sure it's in the
just said.
language that you're drug dealing.
Let me tell you, all of them have
Sorry,
a,
I'm not-
all of
I
them have
can't
a
help myself.
caveat. That what they have initially is the initial attorney makes a determination. Was this self-defense? You can't go get mad at your grandson, for example, and say, pull a firearm and say, clean your room or I'm going to shoot you. Because when he tells us that's what happened, we're going to say, nope, that was assault of illegal behavior. They're not going to pay for that.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
they're going to pay
I
for.
can't do that?
No, no.
Well,
It's been working so well.
two things could happen, though.
What?
Either someone could say, no, that's not what happened, and a person who should be getting the insurance would be denied it because someone else said that that's not what happened. Like in that specific instance, what if I was lying and they felt bad that because I told them that my grandfather pointed a gun at me, and then they would no longer allow him to get that insurance, even if he didn't do that. Also, if that's not the case and they would do it anyway, then you have the chance of people like drug dealers getting insurance for things that they should not have done in the first place.
You're 100% right. There's no perfect answers. In most of those cases, they're going to defend him. If there's no drugs there. The drugs part, sorry, you're out of luck. But if they think that you really didn't pull a firearm on you, they say Grandpa really didn't pull a firearm on you, they're going to defend him. And it's just like our jury system. It's not always perfect. There are some innocent men go to jail and some guilty men go free. And so I'm not saying anything is perfect. I'm saying it's better
Than nothing.
Better than nothing, because here's the thing. If you take, again, let's take, the richest men in the world, okay? They can obviously write a $100,000 check and say, get started on my case.
Right.
The average working man can't. The average working, and I was discussing the price. So, for example, I budget for a case like that, and we're assuming no shots are fired. We're talking just the display or pointing of a firearm. I budget a reasonable PI at $10,000 just for the PI.
Right.
Okay, and then you've got to bring in a self-defense expert. I'm going to probably ask Masada Huber, Manny Capelson to come in. There's at least another $20,000.
I almost outshot him.
Masad?
Yeah, right. Okay. No, I get this. Just
Okay.
a brief one. This is really good evidence of make sure you always stay focused.
Uh-huh.
It was he's a very famous guy from New Hampshire. I think he used to be a state cop. He
Okay.
does tons of articles on self-defense and everything else. He's really a sharp dude. Anyway, I was at a bowling pin shoot at my gun club in Ware, New Boston. Goffstown Fish and Game, and we're having a bowling pin shoot, and I had my .44 Magnum wicked overloaded. It was it was doing some serious damage on these pins. But anyway, so the idea is you have like 4 bowling pins on a table about 10 yards away, maybe 8 yards away, and you try to knock them off the table.
They're very
And
pin
it's-
shooting is my favorite. I have bowling pins in my basement to
Right.
take the
Yeah,
range.
yeah.
I love
Wild
it.
bowling.
No,
with the
no,
ball
no. You
at-
shoot.
at
No,
the-
no,
and-
no, no. You just shoot at it. So you're trying to knock these pins off the table, and we each had 4, and there's like 4 of us doing it. And I was shooting, and I went 1, 2, 1 fell down, and I had to reload. And I'm starting to reload, and I look over, and Masad still had 3 up.
Ooh.
And I says, I'm beating him, right? Which is pretty psyched because I'm not very
Oh.
good, right?
He's a very good shot.
Then
Yes.
that was it. I lost it as soon as I wasn't focusing on what I was doing.
Yep. You have to be
You
focused.
got to stay on target.
Task, but not goal oriented.
Yes.
Those are his famous words. Has your grandpa ever taken you bowling pin shooting?
No.
It's so fun. And here's the reason. It is so fun.
It is wicked fun.
If you look at the shape of a bowling pin, it replicates the shape of a human. And you have to hit it at just the right point with just the right power to knock it off the table. And those marksmanship skills are actually really important. And so no, bowling pin shooting is so fun. Anybody who's never done it before,
I've never done it.
I'm
oh,
not
it's
gonna.
so fun.
Give it a
I'm
try.
not gonna lie. The fact that you think that it's fun because it's in the shape of a human, it's unsettling.
Whoops. You want me to tell you why? And I don't think it's unsettling at all. It's important.
Well, of course you don't. You're the one who thinks it is. You want to do it because
No, because it shows you the effective point. If you're being attacked by someone, you have to hit them in center body mass, okay? Because what happens is if someone's attacking you, if you were to hit their arms or their legs, okay, they can still continue to attack you with a knife or another handgun. And if you hit the center body mass, that's how to stop the attack. And so you have to learn how to hit that area because anywhere else is not going to stop the attack.
Yeah,
couldn't I just do that with a target?
you could do that too, but this
Yeah,
is
but
gold
a
pin.
target is shaped.
In
the
competition
best-
is a little bit more stressful, so it teaches you to stay on target regardless of stress.
Yes, but targets, the best targets are humanoid shaped because again, it shows you that area with the correct dimensions. Because if you don't shoot the correct dimensions, the way you practice is the way you're going to act under stress.
Yep.
And that's really, really important. People don't understand that. That the way you practice is the way you're going to act under stress. And so what you have to do is everybody makes their own personal choices. There are some people who say they'd rather die than defend themselves, and that's their own personal choice. They have a right to make that. But if you choose to defend yourself, or if you have children or grandchildren and you say, I'm not going to let my grandchildren or my children be hurt because I couldn't defend them effectively, I'm going to choose to defend them, then you have to know how to do it effectively, which is to hit the center body mass, which is exactly what that shape is. So it's easy to talk about it in the abstract, but if you talk about police officers or people in law enforcement, that's why they use those targets, because they're effective. And they're essentially bowling pin shaped, because again, you're looking at the same area. You have to stop the threat, and anything else will not stop it.
And it's
Anyway-
important to note that no one's looking for an opportunity to take that
No,
shot.
no.
Everyone's looking for an opportunity to not have to take that
Correct.
shot. But if it comes
Yep.
to that, you better have your skills down
Yeah.
and know
Yeah.
how to respond
Oh,
under
absolutely.
stress. Right?
I don't
Yeah.
know anybody that's says, "Well, I can't wait to actually shoot somebody."
No.
Yeah, that's not the goal.
Yeah, the goal is to not, but if you have to do it, you want to do it effectively and decisively. And that's why I love it, because if you are not knocking those pins off the table,
You're hitting in the wrong.
you're hitting in the wrong place and you're going to have a problem when the time comes.
Yep.
And so, and what's important is that these policies, now what I call the bad ones, and you go out there and read them, there's three different types that are what I call the bad ones.
Yeah.
And those bad ones require you to defend yourself first, spend all the money, and then submit it to them, and they will decide if it was if you
Oh,
were.
yeah.
What
if
good
the
is
case
that?
has merit, so
Yeah.
now you've spent your money, and
Yeah.
they're gonna.
And they're going to decide if you spent too much
Assess
on
it.
this. They're essentially going to act like a third-party administrator with your insurance company. Oh, yeah. So you need to ask those questions and read the fine print, because a lot of them say whatever. And the answer is the average person can't write these types of checks up front. They just can't. It's a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount for bail, to get out. And the other thing that you have to think about in these type of cases, and there's people that will react the way you did, is that the mere fact you shot someone, they don't even want to hear the story. You can lose your job. I've had clients right after the next day all of a sudden get laid off, okay? People who had been there for years and years and years and weathered all sorts of layoffs and just top of their field, because there are some people that believe the mere fact that you shot someone, they don't even wait to hear the rest of the story. They think that's wrong. So you also have to think about and bank the money and say, even if I have some savings, what if I get fired right after this? Okay? So now I'm without a job. And when you go for jobs, and today everybody Googles people, right? If you want to know about someone, you Google them. What's going to come up? What's going to come? Oh, the man who just shot someone. Oh, we don't want to hire that person. And so I tell people to think about that, because that's really, really huge. What are you going to do if you now lose your job at this worst time in your life? And so here's what I tell people is there's a bunch of plans out there, a bunch of companies.
Are there some scammy ones too? These
Yes.
Kind of flim-flam
Oh.
policies.
There are tons of flim-flam ones.
Okay.
And so I tell people there's really only 4 or 5 to consider. And even then, in my mind, there's one that I think is a real good buy. And one of them, the one I'm thinking of, you can buy it 2 ways. The first year is $135 and $95 a year after that. Or you can buy that's cheap.
That's wicked cheap.
That's incredibly cheap for that kind of assurance.
And
If you're gonna carry,
yeah. Yeah, and if you buy the 10-year plan, it's $790. So that way, you don't forget to renew it the worst week something bad happens to you. Murphy's Law, right? Okay, that averages out to be $79 a year. Now, that particular company, and here's the reason I say that. I am listed as an attorney with two different companies. One, I just don't happen to have had a case with them before. The other one, I've had one case with. And they were actually amazing because they have decided that they will spend up to 50% of their reserve for any one case, which means up to $500,000. That's a fair amount of money that they're willing to commit to any one case to defend someone.
$500,000.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that's a lot. Now, the case that I had with them cost substantially less, but let me tell you what was wonderful about it to me, and I just can't say enough good things about them, is that when I called Marty up, Marty Hayes, he and his wife Gila run the organization, and they had thought about this for years and years and years and said, we have to start something like this because a lot of people, if you talk to lawyers, they'll tell you it happens all the time, are pleading guilty because they don't have the money to defend themselves. Or if they do, they're not willing to take that risk with that money because that's their kids' college education fund that they've set aside. And now they've got to gamble that money. That's a pretty big gamble. And so when I had the case, I'd call him up and say, listen, I'm going to need like another $20,000. He says, okay, can you send me an invoice to date? And of course, I scrub it of all client material, and he gets a generic thing. And when I told him I was going to hire Manny Capelson, now Manny is fabulous. Did I mention he charges $375 an hour, plus expenses? So that's a fair amount of money. And I can tell you right now what happened was that Marty Hayes said to me, that's a really great choice. He's the one paying the bill. And he says, that's a really great choice. He doesn't say, well, can you get a cheaper guy? Anything like that. His thought process was, we want our member to be taken care of. We want this member to have,
Wait. You're telling me there's a for-profit company that is actually ethical?
I don't know if they're a for-profit or a non-profit. I actually don't know what their corporate status is.
Well,
I'm embarrassed to say that.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, they are beyond ethical. They started this because they felt that armed citizens didn't have an option, and they were seeing too many good people lose their firearm rights for life and plead to things because they didn't have the money to defend themselves. And Marty said, we don't ever want to see a case where one of our members has to plead because they're not getting an adequate defense or we haven't ponied up the money. And so I can't say enough good things about them.
That's very ethical.
Now, what's the name of the company?
Interesting.
I'm going to screw it up. I always do the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network.
Okay.
And
Write it down, folks.
the people that Gila and Marty have been nothing but good about it. And I tell people now there's some other, for example, the NRA has a plan, but last time I checked with the NRA plan, and if you go to people always ask me, well, can you compare these plans? And I say to them, if you want to pay me a bunch of money, because it's going to take me a few hours to go through them, I'll do it. But am I going to sit there on a Saturday afternoon and do this? Nah, not happening. But Marty Hayes at the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network did it. I found it on his website the other day. And he compared all the different plans. And at least at the time he compared it, the NRA wanted you to pay and get reimbursed. So they're going to charge you X amount of dollars, okay, and you're going to pay and get reimbursed. Well, that doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
It's not insurance.
It's yeah, it's like some insurance companies. Your house burns, yeah, pay for a new house, and then we'll reimburse you. Well, if I could do that, why would I maybe buy this insurance?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And a lot of the policies I've seen out there with different USCCA, I happen to be on their list as well. I've never had one of their cases, but they offer like a bunch of different things. They're going to cover licensing. They're going to cover this. They're going to cover that.
Now, where's Marty and where are they from?
They're Washington State, believe it or not.
Washington
So
State.
they're from Washington
Interesting.
State, but they did their homework well enough to know to contact you in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was really kind of funny. The case I took, it was a Saturday. Marty called me. He says, "Hey, Penny, we have this member, and because of this particular member, I can't disclose the area other than New England." And he says, "Can you help us out?" I said, "Well, sure." And the reason I think everyone should read these two articles on the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network, there's an interview of me last month and this month on pepper spray. And here's the,
Why is that even a big deal? I don't even get it.
let's just pick states around here, okay? Let's say you go to Maine or Massachusetts and some guy attacks you and you
I
pepper
have,
spray him.
Yeah.
We're talking just plain old pepper spray. You've seen
Sure.
it. Have you ever been pepper sprayed before? No. It's not very fun. Those of us who buy
That was a
pepper
good
spray,
answer. I'm glad he said that.
well,
I mean, I don't know.
those who buy pepper spray
briefly
have people
glance at
spray
you
them to
before
see
you
how it works. Okay. Do you know how much time you'd get in,
Sorry,
let's
Paul.
say, Massachusetts if you pepper sprayed someone and they charge you?
You can get time
In
for
Mass?
it if you're
Oh, yeah.
defending yourself?
No, it's aggravated assault,
12 and a half years. No tip.
even if it's self-defense.
Do you like 12 and a half years?
For just defending yourself?
So why
you
do
know,
they
you
sell
can
the
get-
stuff over the counter in these
You can,
states?
you know how
where-
many years you can get in New Hampshire for pepper spraying someone?
No.
Let me put it to you this way. Grandson, you might be missing his high school graduation. So what I'm trying to say is, yeah, they consider it, in some instances, a deadly weapon. Everybody has their different, each state, we could go through all the different states. But what I'm trying to say is that if you defend yourself with anything, so I had one person say, I'm going to carry wasp spray, and if anybody gets me, won't be pepper spray, I'll be using wasp spray on them. And I said, they're going to charge you the same way, and wasp spray is not as effective as pepper spray. So the reason I say this is because you still got to be bailed. That's money, right? All those things, again, sometimes you're lucky and get what's called PR, which is personal recognizance bail, and they put a high dollar amount on it, which means you have to pay that amount as a fine if you're to willfully not appear. But
Right.
a lot of times, they just put a high cash bail on it, because here's what I tell people. You don't know who it is you're defending yourself against. We live in a small state. We have 400 state reps, right? What if you happen to defend yourself against the Speaker of the House's son? And the Speaker of the House's son, puts some of their political muscle in the case and says, that's my son, And we have things that happen, and I'm just picking on the Speaker as well as any elected official.
Yeah.
You and I know that sometimes people throw their political clout around.
Right, I do it all the time. Don't I?
You intimidate me to pieces.
I know, see?
See, and so I tell people that you don't know what's going to happen when that happens. And so, like I say, every one, USCCA offers all these different coverages, but what you have to ask yourself is, what's the chances that you're really going to have a licensing problem? What's the chances that you're going to face a civil suit? If so, you should make sure you have good homeowners insurance and umbrella policy that covers that. There's all these other things, but it's one of those things like making a will. No one likes to do it. No one wants to think about their own mortality.
Yeah.
But I don't know anybody who's lived past whatever. We're all going to go. And so it's one of those things that you have to deal with. And so the reason I've been on the bandwagon about it lately is we see more and more people charged because we live in a society where people say, well, can't you all get along? Well, yeah, it'd be nice if we could, but there are bad people out there.
No, we can get along as long as we write more laws. We
Okay.
just don't have enough laws, Penny.
Is that what it is?
That's what it is. It is.
I was going to ask if you could slash about 75% of what we have.
Oh,
Guys in neckties and wraparound sunglasses.
that's
There ought to
right.
be a law.
It should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, my thought processes, and let me tell you the thing that people need to be prepared for is when you argue for bail, which is your first point in these cases, your lawyer really has to have a lot of information. And so I tell people, just like you prepare and get, ready for your funeral and this and give all your loved ones instructions, people who carry a firearm for self-defense should have a resume, they should have a biography, they should have all those things ready, because your lawyer is going to need that information to argue for low bail. And the more you can humanize yourself and say to the judge, look, this person's a member of this community. This person has always lived here. This person's lived here these years. Because that makes them feel
I
more
would have a
comfortable.
hard time humanizing myself, I think.
Would-
That'd be a stretch. That'd be a lot of creative writing, I think.
well, could we say we've at least lived in the same state for a long time?
Yeah,
Yeah, see? Because judges want to know
physically.
two things when they give people bail. They want to know that you're not going to harm someone else in the community.
You're not going to skip to Mexico. Or
That's
something.
exactly right. No going to Puerto Rico or no going
Belize or
to
whatever.
Belize. That's right. No going to Pago on this nice sunny tropical vacation that you never come back from.
Right.
So they want to know two things. They want to know, are you going to be stable, and are you going to show up at every court appearance,
Yeah.
and are you going to harm any member of the community?
Yeah.
Okay, and so in order to convince them of that, you have to paint a picture for the judge that this is a human being.
So because we only have like, I think, what, 8 minutes or something left?
Yep.
So you recommend, you're telling people now, after all these years you've been doing this, because you've been doing this a long time, that people really need to get this insurance. They really need to have their backstory down.
Yep.
In the event that something happens, so
Yep.
that when something actually happens, they're not going to be, first they're going to be intimidated by the situation, especially if you shoot somebody, because people have this grand idea of what it is like to shoot somebody, and all you have to do is look at somebody's eyes that came back from war. That takes a lot of healing to get over that.
It does.
And it's not okay. It's not something great. But sometimes, if I'm sitting there with my grandkids, and it's between that person who's banging on the window and wants to hurt us, and my grandkids, well, that guy's losing the argument.
Yep.
Period.
It's hoping for the best and preparing for the worst.
Right.
That's exactly right.
It sounds to me like if you defend yourself these days, you have to be prepared, or if you prepare yourself to defend yourself, you also have to be prepared to mount what is synonymous with a criminal defense.
An aggressive defense quickly.
You absolutely have to.
that
What-
in your
okay.
back pocket.
You have to.
For the people out there, okay, so Damon and I are walking down the street tonight. Somebody tries to jump me, I shoot them. What do I tell the police? Nothing?
That's exactly right. I have this acronym, and I won't say what it is because we're on the right. It's called STFU. That means zip your lips. Okay? You know what STFU means, right? Yeah. And so that means zip your lips, right? That's a nice way to
You
say
have
it.
the right to remain silent, use it.
That's exactly right. And so I give people on my business card on the back, the United States Supreme Court has made it even more difficult. Used to, if you kept silent, that's enough. You have to say, I am remaining silent. Because if you don't say that, the police can use that against you at your trial, that you remain silent. Because you didn't tell them, I am remaining silent. And you're like, that makes no sense to me at all.
I mean, the thing is, if you look over politically on the national level over the last few months and stuff like that, all you need to see is what's going on in the Trump administration, where the FBI questions somebody, then they come back and question them again, and they said they stopped for breakfast at 8, and then the next time they talked to them so I think it was 8:30. Well, you just lied. Perjury. Okay,
Yeah.
so they're not. It's no longer like the FBI is trying to arrive at the truth so that they can prosecute a crime. They are just trying to arrive at a prosecution, and they don't care what it is.
That's exactly right.
And that's horrible.
It is horrible.
That's tyranny.
You want me to tell you what? I had a case one time where I said, matter of fact, the case with the banging on the door. And they said, the police trooper said, well, how will that help me prove my case? Because I wanted the technician to come in and, swab the door. And I said, I thought we were trying to find the truth here. I thought that was what our goal was. I thought we were trying to find out what really happened here.
Right, period.
Yeah, and so that's the bottom line is we are getting more and more. I think the character of law enforcement's changing and not for the better, sadly.
Yeah.
In the old days, people make fun of the Barney Fife and the Andy, Mayberry RFD. But a lot of those law enforcement people got into law enforcement because they cared about their community, they cared about the people, they loved guns. That's a good thing, by the way.
Right.
And now some of them think about it as a career, and their knowledge of the self-defense tools and the tools they use is abysmal. And they think that carrying a gun is something only those people are qualified to do. And my answer is, excuse me, but the majority of the people that carry a firearm for self-defense are eminently qualified to do so.
Right.
And they take it upon themselves with their own dollars to choose to be trained and to choose to improve their behavior. And to go back to the analogy that you didn't like, to use those things because they're the most effective. And it doesn't mean that you want to kill someone or that you want to hurt someone, but it means if I am attacked, I'm going to use every effective tool at my disposal to save my life and those whose lives I choose to save.
And they're typically pink.
Yeah. They're pink. They're pink. Revlon number 19, powder coated. But
You're awesome, by the way.
thank you. But the whole thing is, because why shouldn't you? I have a rule about only beautiful guns, and Mr. Glock is the most beautiful of all.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, the point I'm trying to make is it seems to me, and I agree with you. Over time, years ago, the police were about trying to acquire what happened, and then prosecuting somebody if they had done something.
Right.
Now it's almost like a football game, and we don't care what the truth is. It's all about winning.
Yes, and it's a numbers game. And so this, like how many convictions do we get? And here's what I tell people. One of the most important people in New Hampshire in every county is the county attorney. And here's why people need to think about this. The county attorney is an elected position. That means you can unelect them at a given election.
Yeah.
And so I tell people, sit down and talk with your local chief of police. Find out how, if they're appointed or elected. They should be elected. They should be accountable to people. But talk with county attorneys when they're running. And don't let people say, oh, yeah, I support your Second Amendment. Talk to them. Do you support my right to have that little selector switch on the side? Those are the best, right? The one that has 3 positions? If they don't support that or don't know what you're talking about, do they support suppressors? Do they support, concealed carry? Really get down to the nitty gritty, because Hillary Clinton supports the Second Amendment. I mean, what more do we want?
Yeah, she says so. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say
Hey,
is,
we're all out of time, young lady. I could have you back because you're awesome, and thank you for coming up to the legislature and trying to keep us in line.
Yeah, thank you for your
What is it?
activism. I mean, you're a wealth of information.
you're
You've
awesome.
seen this stuff in real life, and we appreciate it.
Damon, thank you again for coming on and throwing in your oars. Eric,
Hi.
we'll see you next week, you cotton picker.
Yeah, that's right.
And we'll see you guys next week. I have no idea who my guest is. I got to get a guest for next
But
week.
you will.
We will.
And we'll be
Maybe.
right here. We won't move.
We won't move at all. See you guys next week.
Thanks for coming.